if you are, I'm really sorry if I always look a bit dazed and confused at the start of these. Starting on Zoom rather than the Facebook Live itself just confuses me a bit, so my apologies for that. If I just come looking a bit like, who am I, where am I kind of do know, really. But welcome to some thoughts on Thursday for today. And you know, today I thought we would talk again about acceptance, and it isn't the first time we've spoken about this, and it won't be the last, because I think it's such an important topic to talk about. Not because, you know, acceptance is important, it is, but what is it? What does it mean? Because so often I speak to people and we have this belief that acceptance, there are two camps, I think. One is acceptance means, okay, well, I just have to put up with it, can't do anything about it, it's not going to change, I'll just have to put up with it. And the other camp is, I've got to really love myself, I've got to love my body, I've got to love my life, I've got to love everything in order to accept it. And so I can't do acceptance. And I hear you, and I think acceptance is a tricky word. It's a tricky word because it does infer those things often outside of therapy, outside of kind of an emotional, psychological perspective. It does infer those things. So it's no wonder that most people have some confusion around it. But what acceptance really means from an ACT perspective is being with, opening up to without judgment. So being with whatever feelings are around, opening up to what experience we're having in this moment without being in that place of needing to change it instantly or needing to make it differently or needing to see it differently, reformulate it, whatever. So when I talk about acceptance, when we talk about acceptance in psychological terms, what I'm really meaning is being with, being in that moment without judgment, knowing that wherever we're at, whatever we're feeling or whatever we're experiencing, doesn't have to be changed instantly. So we're not saying, oh, I'm not going to change it, it will never change. We're saying, this is where I'm at in this moment. This is how it is. Because it's in the fighting of that, in the trying to change it, we either suffer emotionally or we bring in habits and behaviors to try and change our experience. So that's the importance of acceptance. That's the importance of being with whatever we're with in that moment, in that once we start to be with it without a need to change it straight away, we start to lose the need for those coping behaviors, for our habits and behaviors that are trying to change our emotional experience. So whether we're eating more than we want to be eating, more than our body needs, whether we're not eating in a way that we want to be eating, whether we're restricting what we're eating in order to create a different emotion in that minute, we lose the need to do that when we start to believe, oh, okay, this is where I'm at. I can be here. I don't need to change it because our experiences are ever changing. So even if in a moment we feel really anxious or really afraid or really angry or whatever it might be, if we can be with that experience and that emotion and hold it until it moves and shifts, and we don't need to change it instantly with our behaviors become less of an important part of our life. That's why it's so important. Now, that's really not to say, you know, we have to love that moment. We have to love how we feel about our body, how we think about our body, how we think about food. We don't need to love it. Acceptance isn't about saying, oh, here you go, it's all wonderful. It's about saying, this is where I'm at right now. And remember that piece about values. What's important to me is to keep going. No matter what thoughts and feelings I have, my actions can still align with what's really important to me. So that's the piece where change comes in. So we're not saying be with this and just stop trying to fight it and don't do anything ever to make things different. We're not saying that, but I am saying we have very little to no control over our thoughts and feelings. We don't get to say how our thoughts and feelings are. We might like to believe we do, but I suspect that for most of us, if we could really control our thoughts and feelings, we wouldn't be struggling with our relationship with food and weight. We just wouldn't. We don't have that level of control. The area we do have control over when we see it is our behaviours. And so what in ACT we're saying is acceptance is about being with whatever emotional, psychological experience we're having, and recognizing that we can't change that. And that's where the acceptance of being with that comes, without needing to try and battle with it, but also saying, and if I can allow acceptance of that and let that sit there and keep my focus on what's deeply important to me, then our focus can be on what's important, what are my values, how do I want to be treating my body? And that's where we can affect the change. That's where we're saying not at all fall into it, let it take over, accept it and just be as it is. But it's saying don't battle with what we can't change, but take our focus to where we can have some influence. So just a little reminder of the importance of acceptance and the importance of not tripping up with the idea that if I don't totally love my body, I'm not accepting it. Because acceptance is, in terms of our bodies, okay, this is my body. This is where it's at. This is what I have right now. I'm not going to change it this moment. I'm not going to change my thoughts and feelings about it in this moment even. But what I can take my focus to is, how do I want to be treating it? What's important to me in my relationship with my body, in my relationship with food, and how do I want that to look? What behaviours can I bring in that can honour the values I have in my relationship with my body and with food? So I hope that's a really helpful little reminder. And if anybody wants to talk about acceptance, if anybody wants to share their thoughts, please do so with me or in the group. It's all relevant. Everybody here is important and significant. And what you see, what your successes are, what your struggles are all important. So share away if you feel you want to. But take care for now. Bye-bye.